I wanted to do the Levin thing, but I at this point I don't give a fuck about Levin. I mean, it's just not gonna.
You've asked me all kinds of questions about my living Atkins. Here's a question for you. How are you feeling? Because who isn't a little more focused on her health these days? All the more reason I'm all in on Atkins. Not the Atkins diet, the Atkins life. Great food that's rich in healthy protein, not a ton of carbs or sugars. Feels good. And when you're feeling good on the inside,
you gotta eat it on a beach.
It starts to show on the outside. Go to Atkins.com to learn more. All free, nothing to join.
I'm on the Abkins diet.
Here's to our health.
I mean, Biden is the so-called commander-in-chief. He is a...
No. He is the commander-in-chief. And by the way, the so-called commander-in-chief part, when you say it that way, Mark, you're not... By the way, you're watching Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide. Don't forget to like and subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show, and share it. Mark, when you say so-called commander-in-chief, you're not mocking Biden. You know, you're not saying that, Biden is allegedly the commander-in-chief, meaning that you don't believe he was legitimately elected. When you say so-called commander-in-chief, what you're saying is the president of the United States is a so-called commander-in-chief, and therefore that title is bullshit. Just for the record, Mr. fucking flag in the back.
Raising a disaster. He actually has the Russians negotiating with the Iranians on a nuclear deal with us. What kind of a fool does that? I will never know. He puts more...
It depends on if the deal gets done, I guess.
Sanctions on the American oil industry.
And also, are the Iranians working the Russians into this? I don't think that's happening currently, fucko. That was all happening up until the attack.
And no sanctions on the Russian oil industry as I speak. What kind of a fool does that when we can use oil?
Well, because they're coordinating with all the countries of the world, because it doesn't help if we're the only one that do it.
To debilitate the Russian economy, the Putin economy and war machine, rather than debilitate you, Mr. and Mrs. America.
Oh, thanks. Which one am I? I have a feeling you would misgender me from behind. I mean, honestly. Be like, who's the hot chick with the broad shoulders? That said, if we sanction Russian oil entirely, the price of oil will go up, and Mr. and Mrs. America, myself included, will feel it.
You have a damn fool in the White House. There's no question about that, and we should be muscling.
I'm sorry. This might be my mistake. Am I playing a video from a year and a half ago?
Our military for any possibilities, and we're not. Despite spending trillions and trillions of massive debt, we are not muscling up the United States military. Russia, China, Iran, the axis of evil, the real...
Wait a minute. Hold on. What the fuck are you talking about? We're not muscling up. You mean we're not spending... They increased the budget that Trump put for the military by like 3%. And that was supposed to be the biggest ever. The fuck?
That's of evil now that exists. But why does this matter? Because, ladies and gentlemen, I personally am sick and tired of hearing the excuses for Putin and the attacks on the United States.
Well then don't go on Fox anymore. What the fuck are you bitching at us for? Go tell Tucker Carlson. Ask Bongino why all of his questions are like, I don't know. Why would I mean if you were Putin, wouldn't you do the same thing?
We somehow are going to escalate something. We have been incredibly passive in the face of what Putin is doing. Diplomacy?
Putin.
Diplomacy? Look who the diplomats are. Look at the Secretary of State. He's pathetic. Look at the National Security Advisor.
By the way, are you just reading from Lavrov's script at this point?
Pathetic. We've never had such a pathetic team in modern American history.
So pathetic is the word that you're using. Mark, did you see your penis in a hand mirror again? Did that word get stuck in your head? It's hard to get it out, I understand.
It's true, vile, genocidal maniacs. Xi, the regime in Tehran, and yes, the fascist Putin, who's busy running around and...
The fascist Putin, who's made out of pewter, and who kneels in a pew. Pew Putin. That's what they call him. That's what the kids in Russia call him. Pew Putin. Pew Putin. Also, again, tell this to Tucker. What the fuck's wrong with you?
Calling the Jewish leader, the president of Ukraine, a Nazi. Think about that.
Yeah, I do. Every time Tucker Carlson brings it up.
The bad guys, the evil guys, are the Russians. They're not the Ukrainians.
Right.
They're not the Americans.
Well, the Russian leadership, a lot of the soldiers are like, I didn't want to fucking come do this, and it's a little more complicated than that. And I understand you're a simpleton, so you like simple things. But yeah, we know.
They're not the NATO forces. But what does bother me is the Ukrainians need weapons to defend themselves. They were promised MiG-29s, and their pilots can fight.
Yeah, they're getting them. But Poland wants our planes to replace the MiGs that they're giving them. And unless you're saying we should give Poland our next level fighters, if that's what you're saying, then fucking say it. Because we're not denying them that, and we're paying for them.
In MiG-29s, that's what they use. All of a sudden, they were pulled back. I don't favor sending American infantry into Ukraine. No. Does anybody? I don't think even Lindsey Graham does.
Even him?
I don't favor a no-fly zone with American Air Force jets and so forth. But can we at least give these freedom fighters the right to defend themselves? They're now being...
Well, yeah, but we don't make MiGs. Those are Russian planes, and you get them from Poland and other places. The fuck's wrong with you?
Brutalized. They're being slaughtered. They're being shot in the streets. Their women are being raped. There's torture taking place. What does this have to do with the United States? Do you think Putin is going to be happy with Ukraine any more than he was happy with Crimea, any more than he was happy with Georgia? He's told us what he wants.
Right. So why didn't you tell this to Donald Trump when he was all like, he's a best friend, we're so close. He hasn't done anything. He's not planning a giant attack. He's a thumb twiddler. It's what he does.
To do. You think he's building hypersonic missiles to attack Kiev? He's building hypersonic missiles to get around our defense systems. The way China's building their Navy and their hypersonic missiles, you think they're doing that to attack Taiwan?
I don't know.
Do you think...
Mr. President, do you think that, you can go into any store you want to and buy any kind of rubber device and you can safely take it home and without reading the instructions not end up in the emergency room? No.
Iranians are building intercontinental ballistic missiles to hit Tel Aviv. They don't need intercontinental missiles to hit Tel Aviv, for which...
Right. They need them for North Africa.
Want to put warheads on? By the time this administration's done in Washington, the Iranians will have nuclear missiles. China will have conquered Taiwan.
Wait a minute. Hold on. First of all, the Iranians will have nuclear missiles. We had a deal stopping them from making them. Trump threw that out. All ground gained since then is Trump's fault. We're trying to get back into that and get them to stop. The Saudis don't like that. The Saudis don't want us to make a deal with the Iranians and get them at the negotiating table. So that's why they're choking off oil, dumb fuck.
And Russia may well be marching into other countries.
That's the whole thing? Jesus. And these are, what do you expect? And we're gonna, and there's no, and how come you, and look, Mr. Producer, listen, I don't want an intercontinental hypersonic dildo to strike me as I'm reaching over to tie my shoes. Don't want it to happen. You think they're trying to destroy us? Good Lord. I'm glad that was shorter than I thought. I mean, that's his whole segment. He usually goes, done, at the end of it, and then they bring him back on Sean Hannity or whatever the hell. All of the ground made by North Korea, all the ground made by Iran, all the ground made by Russia over the time that Trump was, it was basically like a strategic nap that Trump made us take while that stuff was happening. Now, what they don't realize is that we didn't care, and that our, the Pentagon and our defense industry and all these, they're always working on this shit. It's their thing. So they don't take a pause for anybody. They're paranoid. It's their job to be paranoid. So even though, Trump tried to hamstring it, and he certainly limited some of the arms that were going to Ukraine during his presidency, it still was like, It wasn't a year away. It was a week away. So it didn't work out for Russia in that regard. They fucked up. That was shorter than I thought. How's premature expectation? Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Anytime it's Levin, I'm always surprised at how short it is, and I shouldn't be.